it was like, okay, this is something that I've been praying for, and just realigning like my mind and like just getting out of that fear, because I think that was the biggest thing, is just fear makes your body tense up. It makes you not want to lean into those things. And it's like, no, you have to lean in because your baby has to come out.
Yes. Welcome to the podcast, ladies. Today I'm interviewing first-time mom, Brenna Burkins, and she'll be sharing with us her pain-free birth story. Now, you might be thinking, pain-free sounds nice. Maybe it's like a third-time mom, but as a first-time mom, that just doesn't happen. And I'm here to share it does. And we have lots of testimonies and stories. And I'm so excited to have Brenna on to share her remarkable 4-hour home birth story as a first-time mom. Welcome, Brenna.
Hi, thank you for having me.
I'm so excited to have you. I think I shared your birth video, if correct me if I'm wrong, and it was like you just laughing, like ecstatic right after giving birth in the tub. Is that true? Yeah.
Actually, during pushing, I was laughing during pushing.
Oh my gosh, I love it. It just sounded like so much joy over the whole thing, which is just such a beautiful testimony. So, what was it that led you to even believe for a pain-free birth as a first-time mom?
Yeah, so my husband and I, we had just gotten married, and we were actually attending his dad's church at the time. And there was this older woman who had literally had 3 kids. And she said, yeah, all of my births were completely pain-free. She gave birth at a hospital, but she said, I literally had zero pain. And she said, because Jesus died on the cross, and so that doesn't have to be your portion. And so I just remember hearing that story and just being like, wow, like that's kind of cool. And then getting pregnant with our son, I remember so I was actually the children's pastor at the time whenever we lived in Washington. So we got married, moved to Washington, got pregnant with our first son. And this lady gave me the Supernatural Childbirth book by Jackie Mize. And she's, I so believe that this is so true. And I'm just going to believe with you for that you can experience this. And so I'm like, okay, well, I guess I'm going to believe for it. Like, this is awesome.
I love that book. That was actually my first exposure to pain-free birth, and I read that book and I was like, this is awesome. I mean, I've learned a lot since then too, and there's things I don't agree with in the book here and there, but I'm like, just as something, a tool to build your faith. It's such a great like first exposure. So I love that. So you met somebody who had a pain-free birth, you read the book, you started believing and praying for it. What did you do to help prepare, just to like, were there things you had to shift or mindsets or beliefs or fears you had that you had to shift out of?
I'm not gonna lie, I feel like I'm pretty stubborn. And so if I like have my mind set on something, then that's like, all right, this is what we are going for. We are like, my husband and I were like, whenever we're about something, we're like, we have to be fully convinced. And if we're fully convinced, then we are all in.
It's all or nothing.
Give it our everything. And so I remember we literally announced, because my husband was the youth pastor, we announced to our youth leader team that I was pregnant with my first son. And one of the leaders, like immediately after, was like, prepare to have the worst experience of your life. My wife was in labor for so many hours. Like, she had so much pain. It was awful. It was terrifying. And I was like, that's just not going to happen to me. Like, I'm like,
I don't receive that.
That's not going to be me.
That sucks, but that's not my story.
Yes, exactly.
Yep. Yeah. I love that you had that mental fortitude to recognize that even as a first-time mom, newly pregnant. And that's what people do. They dump all their birth horror stories on you. It's terrible. But you were like, from the get-go, nope, that's not mine. Like, I just love that. I wish every mom had that confidence to do that. So you're all in, you're like believing for this. What helped you just in preparation and like even just physically? You mentioned some really good tips. I think you had a video where you shared just some of the things you did. What do you think really was some of the key factors that played into being able to experience this?
Yeah. I feel like for me, so at our church, something that we say is like, there's only one way to God, and that's through Jesus, but there's many ways to connect with him. And so like people connect with the Lord through like expression. So by creating art or being in creation, and one of the ways I connect with God is through learning. And I feel like for me, I just feel more prepared whenever I know things in my noggin.
Sure, yeah.
And so I feel like a biggest thing for me was just learning like what my body is doing and why it does what it does. And I feel like that's what really prepared me. So that way, because obviously, a first time mom, I've never experienced birth, so I have no reference for it. But just kind of having some sort of understanding, like, hey, this is what might happen. This is what it might feel like. This is what your body is doing. This is why it's doing it. I feel like that helped me so much.
Oh my gosh, it's so true. Knowledge is power. And when you understand what's going on in your body,
Yes.
it changes the whole game. Then you don't have to be scared because you're like, oh no, I knew this was
Right.
part of the game. Like I knew this was part of the package. So
Exactly.
tell us about your birth. How did it start? Like, what was
Yeah.
it like?
Yeah. So I had actually had about 5 hours of prodromal labor like 2 days before. And then, because it was just like little period feeling cramps that kind of started. Our midwives, they were like, well, do the mile circuit, see what happens. If nothing happens, like, no worries. And so I did, and labor didn't progress. And so my son's estimated due date was March 18th. I or March 17th. I went to bed, and I remember I woke up around 2 a.m. And or actually that night we had a friend over and he was making us laugh so hard. And I remember telling my husband, I was like, I think I peed my pants. And I was like, I had no trouble holding my pee like that whole pregnancy. But I was like, I think I peed my pants. And my husband was like, I think your water might have broken. I'm like, maybe, I don't know. So we go to bed and I wake up at 2 a.m. and I'm like, oh my gosh, I think my water actually broke. And about 2:30, I'm like, yeah, my water definitely broke and I'm starting to feel contractions. And so I remember I knew the whole like, all right, the anagram taco, like what time, the amount, the color, the odor, texted my midwives, all these things. And I remember like it very quickly because my labor was so quick, it got intense very, very fast after that moment. And so I remember I did start to get a little bit nervous because, you hear stories as a first time mom that first time labors can be like 24 hours, like they can be long. And there's nothing
Yeah.
wrong with that. Like that's just what your body needs.
Yeah.
And I was very nervous. I was like, this is really intense. I don't know if I can do 24 hours of this. And I remember I started to feel afraid and I started to feel pain. And I was like, oh my gosh, this hurts. How am I going to do 24 hours of this? Because I don't know how long this is going to be. And then I remember I told my husband, I was like, I have been praying for a pain free birth. I refuse to have pain right now. And so I was reminded of in the Supernatural Childbirth book where she talks about like, contractions. It's literally like your muscles contracting. And
Yes.
so I'm like, well, I've been to the gym. I know that you have just like that tightness and it's not easy. And it's just like this tightness. But once it goes away, you have that release. And so I remember I was like, you know what? That's what my body is doing. And so just kind of just recentering, having my husband pray for me, that like got me to focus so much better. And then from then on, literally no pain.
Wow, that's awesome. That sounds so similar because in my first birth too, it was really painful. And I'm like, I said the same thing. I'm like, no, this is not what I prayed for and planned for. Oh, this is so fun. So let me just recap here. Your water broke or you felt a little trickle earlier in the evening when you were with friends and you're like, did I pee? But you go to bed, nothing's really happening. 2 a.m., your water really breaks and wakes you up.
Yeah.
And then contractions start at 2:30, half an hour later.
Yeah.
And they're painful. And you're like, okay, your husband prays, and then it's not painful anymore. So what happened next? Did you call the midwives? Like, were they really intense?
They were pretty intense. I remember telling my midwives, like, hey, like my contractions are actually pretty close together. And they were like, hey, well, if it gets to the point to where like you can't talk during them, or if you feel like they get more intense, or literally if you just feel like you need us to come, like let us know and we'll go ahead and start making our way over. And so I'm like, okay. But I remember they were so intense that I was like I'm trying to like, I wasn't in pain. It was just not comfortable. And I didn't know like what to do or like what like position to get in because they were just ramping up and getting so close together so quickly. Because,
Wow.
like I said, I wasn't expecting to only have a 4-hour labor.
Yeah, that's very fast for a first-time mom.
Yes. And so I remember I told my husband, I was like, hey, like people say like this hip squeeze thing is like really comfortable and I can like help your baby, like help you feel more comfortable. And so I'm like, can you try it? And so he did it. And I said, yeah, actually don't touch me ever again. Like my midwife, don't touch me.
Wow, I don't hear that very often. You're like, nope, don't like that. Some women don't like being touched in labor. It's
Yes,
true.
yes. Because I told him, like, I don't know how I'm going to be. And so I just remember where we were staying was in my dad's pool house because we had just moved back. We hadn't had a house in Texas yet. And so it was like this literally like as big as like a bedroom, essentially, was like the whole little house. And the bathroom was so tiny. So I would literally just go in the shower because the hot water felt so nice on my back. And then I kept feeling like I had to pee like constantly. And so I would go sit on the toilet like back and forth. And so also the toilet is the dilation station. And so I feel
Yes,
like
it
that
is.
that really helped a lot with everything. And then I remember they were getting so close together. I told my midwives, I was like, I need you to come. Like, I think this baby is coming so fast. And so I remember we were basically living in the little pool house. And then my dad had two living rooms. So this back living room we would walk into, and that was basically my birth space. It had the birth pool, we had candles, we had music, we had all the things. It was beautiful. And so I remember we walked in and it's just getting so intense that I'm like, Alex, I don't know why. I just feel like I have to poop. Like I have this feeling of like I have to poop. And so I remember the midwives get there and I tell them this, and they were like, well, do you want to try to go to the bathroom? And so I'm like, sure. And then I'm like, it's just this feeling. And little did I know, I'm experiencing the fetal ejection reflex. And my body is literally pushing my baby down. And so I remember my midwives, like legitimately, like 4 hours felt like 20 minutes. Like I feel like that happened like so quickly. And when
Yeah.
the midwives got there, they were like, hey, like, do you want us to check and just see how far along you are? And I'm like, sure. And so I remember laying down and they were like, I can see his head. Do you want it in the birth pool?
Were they expecting
No, they were not expecting it. They were like legitimately, I remember the look on one of my, because it was the midwife assistant, her face, she goes, I can see his head. Do you want to get in the birth pool? I'm like, sure.
that? Like, even when, like, if you say, I feel like I have to poop, I feel like that's code to midwives. Any birth worker knows, like, okay, you're getting ready to push that baby's really low. You must have been like coping so well that they didn't even think you were that far along. If they're like, well, then go poop if you need to go poop.
Right. It was so funny because like I literally like I remember like I didn't want my husband to like hold my hips or anything, but any of that. But I'm like, hey, can you just hold me for a second? I just need you to hold me through this. And it would be like
Mm.
intense. And it's literally like I remember I couldn't control it. I'm literally feel like I am pooping. Like the same sensation of like going to the bathroom.
It literally does
Yeah.
feel like you have to take the most ginormous poop in the entire world.
Yeah.
That's how I describe it to people who are like, what does it feel like? Well,
Exactly.
but it's not poop. Surprise, it's a
No,
baby's head.
it's a baby. Yes.
So can we like back up this minute? I want to like
Yeah.
understand, how did contractions feel for you when you're in the midst of this? Because you're going through transition, active
Yes.
labor. Sounds like you went right into active labor pretty
Yes.
much. And how far apart were the contractions and what did they feel like?
So I would say they were about, it went from 5 minutes apart to 3 minutes apart for about a minute long, very, very quickly.
Mm,
And it just honestly, truly felt just like this intense, just pressure and that pressing. And so I feel like with just knowing like what your body is doing of like, oh yeah, like my uterus is literally like pushing my baby down, like it's contracting to get him in the right position. I feel like just knowing that, I'm like, okay, my body is flexing its muscle. It's only going to do this for a little bit. It's going to be a little intense, it's going to be a little bit tight, and then I'm going to have a little bit of relief to breathe.
yes, that's literally what it's doing. Your body, your uterus is flexing its muscle. It's like, hey, watch me work out.
Yes, exactly.
It's such, we get so scared, I think, of the word contraction. Like people are like, we have to call it surges. We have to use all
Right.
this fluffy language. Like, I don't really care what you call it. I use both, but it's like, scientifically speaking, it is literally a muscle contraction. And when we
Right.
can like demystify it and, take that fear out of it, that's all it is at the end of the day. It's a muscle contraction. And who's
Right.
afraid of a muscle contraction? You use your muscles every day. So
Exactly.
I love that that was your thought process. And obviously it works because you
Yeah.
were having these intense surges, 3 minutes apart, a minute long, and they weren't painful. Just did it just feel like intense pressure, like, or intense period cramps?
It felt like intense pressure. At first, it really felt like intense period cramps. And I don't have very painful periods. It's just more
Mhm.
like a dull ache if I do have any sort of pain.
Mhm.
And so that's what it felt like the most to me was just the intense, just like, because I am not someone who works out all the time, but in high school, I remember working out and I remember like, okay, like whenever I'm doing squats, like, hey, this isn't easy. And it's like, it is tight and it's not necessarily like it's painful, but it's like, I know that my muscles are working and I
Yeah.
know that I'm going to benefit from like this feeling. And so I think that was like the biggest thing with contractions.
Exactly. Yep. That's a perfect way to describe it. And I love that you felt, this is going to sound like a little bit mean, but I love that you felt the pain in the beginning
Yeah.
because I've heard people say, like, well, you're just like whitewashing labor. Like you just forgot the pain because of all of the birth hormones.
No.
And they've said the same thing to me. And I'm like,
Yeah,
no, I know what painful contractions feel like. They're very different.
they are.
And like when you felt that shift after your husband prayed, was it like immediate or did it like kind of slowly, did that pain like slowly fade away?
Yeah, I feel like it was like a gradual thing because for me, I feel like it was like, okay, this is something that I've been praying for and just realigning like my mind and like just getting out of that fear because I think that was the biggest
Yes.
thing is just fear makes your body tense up. It makes you not want to lean into those things. And it's like, no, you have to lean in because your baby has to come out.
Yes. Yes. So was that the fear then causing that pain in those early
I
contractions?
really think so. I really think so because it was so intense so quick.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause it just like jumped right into active labor. That makes
Yeah.
sense. What happened next after your baby is crowning and your midwife checks you? Are you on the toilet or did they move
No.
you to the bed?
I was laying on a couch and they checked me. And so he wasn't like, I'm not sure if he was fully crowning or anything yet. They were just like, I can see his head. And so, like, do you want to get in the birth pool? And I was like, yeah. And so I remember hopping into the birth pool. I literally
You're just
felt,
like, sure,
yeah.
whatever. So nonchalant about it. You're not no biggie. You're not to push out your baby. Whatever works.
Yes. And so I remember I hopped into the birth pool and I remember I didn't feel any contractions at all. I just remember telling them, like, because midwives, they have to document like everything that's happening. And so there's literal documentation of me. And it's like, Mom, in birth pool, quote, I just feel like I have to poop. Like that's literally like the documentation that's like in our records. And so I love that. But I remember I got in the pool and I'm literally like pushing, and I don't know how hard to push because I've never given birth before and I don't feel anything. And so I remember I'm pushing and I'm pushing probably not very hard, but I remember my midwives were like, hey, like feel down and see if you can feel your baby's head. I remember I was like, oh my gosh, he is like right there. And then that got me so excited because I'm like, I want to meet my baby. I want to see him. And so remember, I started pushing so hard.
No.
Because you're pushing so hard, his head like immediately, like I immediately feel the ring of fire. And I would say that was probably the most like painful part for me because I was like, oh,
Mhm.
wasn't expecting that to hit so quickly. And I remember my husband, I'm like, ow, that hurts. But then I'm also kind of like laughing because I'm like, I'm about to meet my baby. And my husband literally tells me, he's like, I'm so thankful we're not giving birth in a hospital, but I'm also so glad we're not having a free birth. And I'm like, well, that was never an option.
So you guys are like laughing in the middle of your baby's head crowding. Like, I'm so glad there's midwives here and I don't have to be responsible for this.
Yes. So now this time around, I will definitely push a bit slower
Yes.
through the crowning process. But I think I was just so excited, and I'm like, well, if that hurts, I know it's not going to hurt once he gets through. So I remember I pushed so hard, so fast, and then immediately, like literally that next push, his head was out.
Oh,
And
wow.
that's the video that we have is we are literally laughing because we are so excited and we're like literally crying like tears of joy. My husband is like laughing and we're like, we see him. So I'm breathing, getting ready to push again. And literally next push, my son is like totally out. My husband picks him up and puts him on my chest. And then I think in the video, I'm literally like, ah!
Yeah, it's like the joy of the Lord all over you. It's so great to watch. I'll link it in the show notes, ladies, for those of you who are like, I want to see. Oh my goodness. What did that feel like when he came out and he was put on your
Yeah.
chest?
Yeah, well, first of all, I didn't know that whenever like you push out the rest of your baby's body, that it literally just feels like jelly. And it was like the weirdest feeling ever. Like,
Yeah, the head is
really,
definitely the hardest part. And then after if you get the head out, like you're golden. You're
yes,
you're you're great.
yes, yes. And like immediately he puts our son on my chest, and I look at
Did
him.
your husband catch him?
He did. He did. He picked him
I
up and then
love
put him up on my
it.
chest. And I was so thrilled. I literally remember crying. And I think the first thing I said was, "Thank you, Jesus," because I was just so excited to meet him. And what was so special is the room we were giving birth in, it was literally right next to my parents' room. And so they literally got to hear my son's first cries and got to hear me like thanking the Lord that like our son was birthed. And so literally it was just the most beautiful moment ever.
Oh.
Yeah.
So they were like awake in their
They're basically
bedroom,
like listening in
listening
through
through the
walls.
walls to your labor. I don't know how that would make me feel. I would get nervous, but I'm glad that you didn't.
I think I did. I wasn't focused on it.
You were, yeah, you were paying attention. That's amazing. Like, so your
Yes.
mom is like hearing her granddaughter or grandson
Yes.
cry for the first time through the wall.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, I love
Yes. It
that.
was
Wow.
amazing.
Oh my gosh. What are some of your reflections now, like having done this?
I think for me, honestly, because it was so quick, I feel like I really had to process it because I'm like, oh my gosh, that just happened. And like almost in a way of like, wow, I feel like if my birth would have been longer, I almost feel like I would have felt more prepared in a way. And so even though it was like this beautiful experience, I do feel like I almost had these lies of like, well, it was so fast. And so you really weren't prepared and all these things, just lies from the enemy that came with like this beautiful birth. And so just coming against those with like, no, like this was like beautiful. Like this is exactly how my son was supposed to be born, and how our next son is going to be born is going to be exactly how he's supposed to be born. Like the Lord made my body exactly the way it's supposed to. And just believing for just another beautiful experience with my next baby.
Yeah. And you're pregnant with your next baby. How far along are
Yes,
you?
I'm 36 weeks. So we actually have our home
Oh,
visit with the midwives today.
oh my gosh, it's getting real.
Yes.
Yeah. 1 month.
Yes.
Oh, so exciting. And so what were some affirmations or things that you would say to yourself to get you through labor, help you focus?
Yeah, I know for me, the biggest thing was 2 Timothy 1:7, for the Lord has not given us a spirit of fear, one of power, love, and a sound mind. And so I'm like, Lord, you did not give me fear. So I refuse to partner with that. And so with that, there's also the song by Brian and Katie Torwalt, Sound Mind. I literally remembered that song playing in the background
Oh,
during my labor. I had like a specific playlist that would be playing to
oh.
encourage me like the whole time. And I remember that song like really specifically.
Oh, I love it. Can we share your playlist? Is
Of
that
course.
okay?
Yes.
That would
Yeah,
be
yeah.
great. Ladies, how fun. What a great gift. We'll link that in the show notes for those of you who want to get her playlist. And I've also got a playlist. We'll have to like merge, you can
Yes.
pick and choose.
Share
You can,
songs.
yeah, share songs. Get all the good songs, ladies. Like create playlists for your labor because those songs can really get like etched in your memory and
Dude.
really shift the environment. And God just shows up. I love these stories where God is so present and there's so much joy. And even if there is like pain or hard things or walls that we hit, like there's so much like presence and love and Jesus in the room that
Yes.
it carries the whole birth. And it sounds like you had just this supernatural, pain-free, joyful birth that like so many women want and pray for. And I love hearing just how you partnered with God to really partner your faith with his and stood in your faith. It sounds like you were really just adamant about like, no, this is what I prayed for, and I'm not going to entertain anything else.
Right.
And everything else that's not from God, I'm going to just rebuke
Yes,
it.
yes. And honestly, I feel like a big thing was also like my husband was on the exact same page as me.
Mm.
And so it wasn't just like me going by myself. It was also having him like, all right, we're gonna pray and that fear is gonna go. And Brenna, you've been praying for this. Brenna, your body was made to do this. And I feel like that also was so powerful and so beautiful.
Oh, yeah. Having your partner there reinforce those truths because even no matter how strong we are as women, and no matter how much we prepare, we still have moments of weakness where we
Right.
forget those things, where we forget. And it's hard to pull that out of our memory bank, pull that out of all the things we've done and learned and having someone, a partner especially, but a doula is also great. Your midwives are great to remind you of those truths are so key. Brenna, how did this experience shift your view of birth or your body or your even your faith?
Yeah, I feel like for me, it was just this like reaffirming of like, Lord, you literally made me exactly how I'm supposed to be made. And that you've literally
Mm,
made birth, like you've created birth with a purpose. And I don't have to have pain. And just, I don't know, just recognizing how beautiful birth is and how beautiful it can be, even in like those hard moments and those intense moments. It's like, oh my gosh, like, wow, I am a strong woman. You know, I feel like after you
yeah.
give birth, I feel like you become a new woman. And like
Yes.
literally, like you say, like your baby's born, but so is a mom. You
Yeah.
know, it's like you literally become a new version of you.
Yeah.
And
It
I feel like
changes
it,
you.
yes, it unlocked a new level of like confidence. It unlocked a new level of like, oh my gosh, like even just like recognizing the importance of like I'm about to raise this child in this world. And so it's like I have to have confidence in this, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just feel like it's just birth is just so beautiful.
Like it,
And
it like how it makes you own your motherhood.
yes,
Like
absolutely.
and claim your baby. Like this is
Yes,
my role. I'm taking this on and I'm capable of this. That's kind of
absolutely.
what I'm hearing you say.
Yes.
I love that so much. And what would you say to the mama who feels nervous or unsure that something like this could even be possible for her?
Yeah. I would say listen to as many positive birth stories as you can. Find people who will pray and believe with you. Get your husband to pray and believe with you, your partner, to be on the same page and encourage you. Because the last thing you need is someone telling you, like, no, not going to happen, like speaking like the opposite of that, because you need all
Yeah.
of the encouragement to just, like you said, like keep that in your memory bank and then have people with you, whether it be your midwives, your doula, your partner, that's just going to help affirm those truths that you've been believing in for that whole time.
Oh, 100%. Would you just like close us out here and pray for any mom who wants to receive and experience a birth like this?
Of course. Yeah. Yeah. So, Jesus, we just thank you so much for the opportunity to carry life and, Lord, to partner with you. Lord, we thank you that birth is beautiful. This isn't something that you've given us to harm us. Lord, I thank you, Jesus, that you've taken on every single curse on the cross. You've taken all of our shame, all of our sin, all condemnation. And so, Lord, thank you that a pain free birth is possible, that, Lord, a pain free birth is our portion. And so, Lord, I just pray for any woman believing for this, Lord, that they would catch your heart for them, catch your love that you have for them, catch the miraculous power that you have, Jesus. And Lord, I just pray for just supernatural courage to rise up within them, Lord, for the enemy to be silenced, Lord, for their ears to be open to hear the still small voice of just fearlessness that you speak over them, Lord. And Jesus, I thank you for a new generation of women who champions birth and champions the beauty that comes with it, Lord. And Jesus, we thank you, we love you, and we praise you in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. That was powerful. Thank you so much for sharing
Yes.
your story. Where can women find you if they want to connect with you?
Yeah, so I am on Instagram at Brenna Burkins. It's the same across YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, all of the social media platforms.
Perfect. We'll put that in the notes along with the other resources we mentioned here. And with that, we'll see you guys next week.